my name's Kate O'Connor. I'm a junior and I'm a registered Democrat.
Hi, my name is Jordan Dibler. I'm a sophomore here at Penn State, and I'm part of Penn State College Republicans. I by no means represent the views of college Republicans or the Republican Party as a whole.
So my thoughts on the opposing side is that I think fundamentally we really have the same morals and we agree on the same things. It's just how we decide to execute it. And I think for the most part there's a lot of common ground that isn't recognized, but I think at the end of the day we really have the same goal. It's just deciding how to execute it where we disagree.
The opposing side's views, I think they come with good intent for the most part, although I do think that they're incorrect. I think that's where we disagree is I think that they're wrong on a lot of things. I think they don't take kind of the whole perspective into account, whereas I think Republicans are significantly more pragmatic in that regard.
So sometimes I disagree with the opposing side. Like earlier I said, I think fundamentally we have the same ideas, but it's just how to execute them. And I think sometimes we value certain things over others, like sometimes we value social ideals or sometimes fiscal ideologies. And sometimes I disagree with the way that we should go about it, but I think in the end we still do have the same goal, so sometimes it's not too big of a difference, but I mostly disagree when it comes down to fiscal and social policies for the most part sometimes.
What makes me not agree with the other side is that I really think it comes down to ideology, but I think our politics, our ideology, our philosophy is significantly more pragmatic, and I think it works for the everyday American, the American worker, and the American family that's trying to raise the next generation.
Do I ever feel judged for being a Democrat? Not really. I think most people are understanding, especially if you can have a civil conversation about your ideas and about what you think. I don't really feel judged. I think obviously in every group, including Democrats and Republicans, there are people that are intolerant of other people's viewpoints, but you get that everywhere. So I think for the most part, I am respected for my views and I don't really feel judged for how I feel.
Yes, I absolutely feel like I would be judged if people knew I was Republican. I am judged because I do let people know that I'm a Republican. I don't hide it or anything. That being said, I just hope that people judge me on my politics and not as a person, because I believe anybody's politics is free reign to judge. That's why people have political discussions, but I don't think that it's necessarily representative of if you're a bad or even a likable person or not.
Something I think the other side should do differently is, I'm not really sure. I don't want to make any generalizations because I think there are bad people on both sides. Sometimes I feel like both sides can be intolerant, but I think that's more of a human race issue rather than a party issue.
I mean, I could sit here and ideally say the viewpoints is what I believe that the other side should do differently, but honestly, I just think being more open to just discussion and talk and just dialogue would be one thing that would really sort of help unify the country, even though we might disagree on a lot. At the end of the day, we're still Americans, and I think we need to really take a step back and just appreciate how much we do still have in common.
Do I personally know anybody of the Republican Party? Yes, I do. My parents are Republican. My college club shares an office with the college Republicans, so I'm definitely surrounded by them. My best friend was actually on the executive board for a Republican club, and we pretty frequently talk about politics, and I'm surrounded by way more Republicans than Democrats.
Yes, so I actually know plenty of people in the opposite party. My mother is a liberal, love her to death. I have plenty of friends who are liberals, I have plenty of friends who are registered Democrats, and we still get along just fine, and that's something that I really hope continues into the future.
I have talked to Republicans about opposing views. We've talked about pretty much every policy, especially my roommate and I, because she is Republican and I'm Democrat, and we talk about things like abortion and gun rights, tax allocation, and for the most part we can have these civil discussions, which I think is really important for progress, being able to recognize where you agree and where you disagree, and where that disagreement comes into play in politics and policy.
I've talked to my mother, who has very opposite views from me on quite an often basis. Sometimes she lures me into the trap, sometimes I lure her into the trap, but and we talk a lot about social issues. We disagree on a lot of things like BLM, just a lot of social issues in general, or stuff that I talk to her about. Although we both don't like high taxes, so that's something we can agree upon.
I do not believe that the two parties can eventually come to a middle ground. I think that individuals can when talking about politics, but I'm not sure in the grand scheme of policy and in legislation and the executive branch that we can come to an agreement. I think especially there's been a lot of polarization and both sides have been straying further left and right, and I really don't see in the near future either side agreeing with the other. I do think individuals are capable of this, but I'm not sure an institution is capable of that.
I think coming to a middle ground is what politics is really all about. That's the end result of politics, or at least it should be, is a compromise between the two grounds, so that way you have something that, and a state representative of mine once said, when you have a bill come to the fore that nobody really likes, you know it's a good bill because it's well compromised on.